some way, shape, or form the same vibe.
As someone who grew up in the countryside where my grandma used to live, the way that slice of life anime or any anime set in the countryside portrays the countryside of Japan is like 1-to-1.
Yeah,
I think it is so fucking accurate. If you want that like kind of slice of life vibe, just go out into the middle of nowhere in Japan, go to any random village, you will get that vibe. In the city, however, completely different.
Yeah, completely different.
So that's why I said neutral.
Yeah, it very much is dependent on like the genre. Every slice of life, like I said, is 100% accurate minus the cute anime girls.
Yeah,
I would say 100% accurate.
It's pretty fucking close though.
From what I've experienced.
From what I've experienced, it's pretty close.
A lot of anime movies as
Well,
well.
I love slice of life. It reminds me of my childhood.
Yeah, I mean, take out. Let's just. I actually think anime is pretty accurate minus like the otaku side of like the culture. Would you say?
Yeah, again, I think it depends on how that otaku side is being portrayed in different shows, right? Like for instance, like when it came to like the otaku portrayal of like Japanese, the Japanese culture, like I think like shows like Lucky Star were pretty spot on with like how it portrayed its shit. You know, Shirobako, for instance, is like pretty spot on, especially when you ask like people who actually work in that industry. So I think it completely depends. You know, obviously there are some like portrayals of like otaku culture that are just like, no, that shit only exists in Japan and only exists in anime rather, and you wouldn't find that shit in Japan. But it's hard, right? Because like we're using all of anime to compared to all of Japan, but there's so many caveats that I just like strongly agree to strongly disagree that it's hard to say exactly if it's the same or not.
There are certain cliches that we see in anime that I'm like, oh, this is why it's a cliche, because it's exactly the same vibe and exactly the same experience that you feel in Japan. And then there are other things where a lot of like the weird shit in anime, where of course Japan's not going to be like that.
Yeah,
you know?
I don't know, I've seen some weird shit.
I kind of think back to when you first visited Japan, right?
Yeah, it's totally different. It's totally different.
And like when you know, up until that point, your only real exposure to like Japan, or maybe the thought you had about Japan is what you saw in anime.
I always think like Japan feels like more closer to that slice of life vibe when you don't live here, because you have to deal with all the bullshit tax and the paperwork and the other worst parts about living a life.
Yeah, well, that's because you're an adult.
Yeah, I have to, you know,
if you came to Japan when you were like 12, you probably wouldn't have.
Yeah, bro. I mean, like, and also I think I would love more kind of. I think there's a much more interesting side to Japan and like nightlife stuff as well that never really gets covered much in anime and stuff, which I think could be interesting. Like when
it does though. It obviously. I don't think in mainstream anime, but this is more of like the niche kind of things.
Drops
like,
of God. Kinda.
No, it's
Bartender.
That's more of a show.
Yeah, there's a lot of like bar anime that.
They don't capture it. They don't capture the vibe.
I think it's because the vibe can be so varied.
That's true.
Yeah.
But you know, I think that like it's such an interesting idea. I think also to understand a country and a city, you need to understand the nightlife. I think that says a lot about people, because that's what they do when they relax. What people do when they can finally let loose.
Yeah.
I think that's an important side of life, an important side of people, and something that isn't really shown a lot in. Or I think it's not reflected, because I think a lot of people who make anime are the same kind of people who they're not like I say maybe they don't procure the nightlife as much.
Maybe because they don't have the time.
Also, I mean, obviously I know there's some great manga that explore nightlife and stuff that are good. But I feel like this, but I sort of don't know how the fuck you would make an anime that
Do you
a compelling story about nightlife.
Do you agree with what Miyazaki said then?
What?
Which is just like I can't remember the
It's like inbred, anime's inbred.
Where I think the general vibe of his quote was that.
Anime is inspired off other anime.
Yeah, as anime, the animation or the anime industry has evolved, there is less filmmaking that is inspired by, I guess, like real life.
Oh, absolutely. Look at the fucking light novel industry right now.
Yeah,
they're all clones of one another.
Yeah,
you know?
I feel like,
and then that bleeds into anime adaptations. That's why you get so many shows that feel exactly the same as one another, because they're all sucking off each other.
That's why they're all incest.
It's all incestuous.
I always try to tell people, I'm like, man, the one thing that like I feel like is so important is just having some kind of experience, like doing something. And I think that like, you know, I think we're all, you know, we travel a lot, we all come from different backgrounds, we've done a lot of weird shit, and we live abroad. I think we have inherently just a lot of weird experiences from that. Yeah. And a lot of experiences that forced us to kind of have to grow up more. But you know, sometimes I talk to other like streamers who are like really young or something, and they've done nothing their entire life but stream. And it's like, man, you don't have any like interesting stories.
Yeah.
Your stories are all from the stream. Your entire life is on this thing. And I feel like you're almost robbing yourself of life and like having cool experiences and getting to have this fun.
Totally.
Especially if you're in a stable income position, you should go out have experiences.
Experiences are priceless, man.
Go and do things with people, have stories, because you know those experiences will allow you to bring that to your art, or allow you to bring that to your life in whatever way, be it you improve your social ability, you can improve your work, you can improve your perspective on things, you can have an enriched vision on the world and life.
Yeah, totally.
And I think that sometimes it does feel like, because I'm watching anime or I'm watching this stuff, and I feel like sometimes that's not there. And that's frustrating for me.
Yeah,
like
totally.
we're making stuff because we think this will sell well, because some bigwig decided they're going to fund this because they're like, yes, horse girls that ride. Then we bet on them. Okay, let's do it. It's like, okay, cool. It's like, all right, but that's like...
Hey, don't talk shit about
women. Okay, I know. That shit makes more money than like every other anime can buy.
That's more of an interesting concept of anime than the past like couple of years.
But I feel like there are a lot of anime that don't feel like this lived experience there.
No, totally not. Because again, they've taken...
Just call out these guys, John.
Yeah,
and I will happily call out.
Yeah, no, because again, they're all inspired from past works of that same genre, because that's all what a lot of these like authors and creators have like took inspiration from.
I disagree with a lot of things that Miyazaki says, but man, he's swag. He is swag.
Oh, dude, he tells it as it is.
Why are you saying that for everything now?
He's swag, bro.
Where did this come from?
It's just in my vocabulary.
We're like back in 2010, bro.
You can't, he's just, everyone feels like he's so based when he's just smoking and he's like everything's shit and everyone's like, it's so fucking based. It's like, yeah, anyone can say that. All right, okay, first of all, but yeah, he does kind of say it good.
He says some good things.
He does say, okay, yeah, he's a little mean to his son, but okay, everything else.
Yeah, but that's based.
That's also based.
Character building, am I right? Okay,
like there's interviews. I saw like it's on TV where he was like, "Don't fucking talk to me in person if you see me," or something like that. He was like, apparently he like goes around and like cleans his local area.
Yeah.
He's like, "Don't fucking talk to me. Don't talk to me about my shit. Don't bother me while I'm cleaning." Like, don't.
Well, you know what? If I was his age and I was in the limelight,
you're right, mad respect.
I would say the same thing.
Yeah, and I think that's back then when you had to I think people were forced to have a lot more experiences and forced to try other things and do other stuff. Whereas now things are a bit different.
Yeah,
you can make an anime without having to leave the room.
But I also do think that whenever you have media from a country or a culture, it is representative of that culture.
Yeah.
Because you could ask the same question where she's like, is living in America the same as it is portrayed in movies and TV shows? And a lot of parts are not. A lot of it is like exaggerated and everything like that. Like, but you look at something like let's say Breaking Bad, and not everyone is going to become a fucking meth lord and everything like that. But
a lot of them wish.
Yeah, a lot of them wish. But you look at the characters and you look at like the day-to-day life of like Walter, and it is very reminiscent of some real people, a lot of real people that you see in just suburban America.
Yeah.
And I think inevitably it's fiction, so a lot of things are going to be exaggerated. But the fiction a lot of times has a baseline that it is based of. So,
but like the Legend of the Galactic Heroes, which I haven't watched, but I assume it's a very good political drama.
Yes.
I feel like you cannot write a story like that without really understanding like people.
Oh, totally.
And to do that, you need to go out and talk to people.
Yeah.
Like to write a really compelling political drama, you need to understand humans and how we work. And that's something that you just have to have.
Yeah, inspiration needs to come from so many different points, and it all just cumulatively come together to create this one unique thing. Like you can't create something new out of something that has already existed. Unless you're a fucking genius. But not everyone who writes a light novel or a manga or an anime is a genius.
I thought we'd be done with this question in like 2 minutes, so I'm impressed that we managed to get this conversation.
I think it's a lot of.
I think it's an interesting topic.
Well, I don't want to be like, when I talk about stuff like this, I'm not trying to be like a guy like, fucking people trying to leave the house, they're all fucking needs, they're all losers. That's not what I'm trying to get at. I'm just like, I feel like in general they're.
Come on, man, where's your swag? Just say it.
Just get some
We're all
swag.
thinking
But people just, the lifestyle here is changing. People are becoming more indoors, as we are in the Western world as well. But I feel like a bit more accelerated here.
Yeah.
It's a bit more accepted here as well, I think. So I think we're seeing
It's not seen as
that
much
in our media.
Yeah, it's not seen as much of an issue here. I think.
Generally, I think the stories that find success are, you get a feel that the author has something to say and an experience they want to relay.
Yeah, totally.
You can, I watch a lot of isekai, so I know that a lot of isekai, they're not trying to say anything. It's turn your brain off, and it's the same formula. And these characters are one-dimensional. Here is this character archetype that I've seen many times before.
It's a cash grab riding a wave.
Yeah. Which is something you can make money off of.
Which is like, respect, get the bag.
But it's not something that I'm ever going to recommend to my mates to be like, yo, this one actually.
No, smartphone in another world. Fire.
Yeah. All right.
All right, next one.
Going on to the next question.
All right, next statement. Watching adult content is unhealthy.
Yeah, okay. This fucking sucks, this pen. Pen's unhealthy. Yeah, I'm just making a pen. I don't know why. There's no marker, bro. There's no swag.
Stop saying that.
I just love swag.
Why? When did you put that in your vocabulary?
I use it ironically, but now I'm not sure.
This is like when kids today rediscover cassette tapes. They're just like, oh, this is a cool thing I can say or do.
Cassette tape.
Cassette tape. Should I start saying, oh, that's fat with a PH?
That's gnarly, dude.
If you had the right oomph with it, I think it would work. All right, I'm ready.
All right, ready? 3.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Cassette tapes have gone up in sales in the past couple of years. Because kids are like rediscovering cassette tapes now. That's scary.
Well, when
a VCR is going to go up in sales.
My brother's car had a cassette player, and he had that like MP3 to cassette thing. Which seemed like really cool technology.
That's pretty swag, actually. That is actually kind of swag. I want that. All right.
How the fuck do you convert tape to? That's so interesting.
It's cool technology.
All right.
All ready? 3, 2, 1. Neutral.
Oh, perfect. We all finally have a different opinion.
Oh, cool.
I'm on the agree side.
You're on the agree side. Okay.
I think mine's just opium, to be honest.
You think so?
Well, I'm gonna try my best.
I have no evidence at all, other than perfectly like I'm making the fuck up.
Yeah.
So it does feel weird about it.
Why is that? Is it like? But like, do you feel shame?
No, I feel like I should be able to exist without it.
Okay. But is it unhealthy? Is it deteriorating to your health?
I think I have a pretty okay relationship with it.
Yeah.
I think I consume it on a normal basis.
Yeah.
But normal is subjective to everyone.
Yeah.
But I definitely know people, and I also think that people are a little too comfortable with it. I think at times.
Right.
I was hearing we fucking talk about jacking off the hentai.
Yeah.
Which I'm okay with because I think it's whatever. Like I think it's pretty obvious that.
Yeah. I mean, we're not the only ones.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah. But I do think that it is one of those things. I feel like it'd be like it's like coffee. It's like my relationship with coffee. It's like coffee is a totally healthy thing in moderation, as are many things.
Yes.
But it could easily go. I find myself. I feel like sometimes I'm like I could definitely go a bit much.
That's why I say neutral, because I think like just watching it and consuming it at like what you think or what society thinks is at a healthy rate. I think watching it in general, there's nothing wrong with. Obviously, it depends on the contents of what kind of adult content it is, right? But I think we've seen many examples in the past of people falling into like an obsession with it and being totally dependent on it and then ruining their lives, ruining relationships, all that kind of stuff. So I think that's why I say neutral. I think watching adult content is fine in moderation, but I think it's also just it's fine to watch. Like I think people who go their entire lives being like, oh, we should just like get rid of all adult content because of XYZ reasons. I think it's just kind of like overreacting, to be honest. I think the existence of it, there's nothing wrong with. It's just all dependent on how one consumes it and how often they consume it.
Like adult content has existed since the beginning of humanity, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean there's
those like carvings of like women, right? That
I think it used to be
Stone Age people used to carve
prostitutes first. I think that's the go-to normally.
Well, yeah, I mean that is adult content.
That is also adult
profession.
content. Since the beginning of humanity, humans have learned that they are just horny as fuck.
Yeah.
And they are going to find a way to satisfy that craving. Whether it be via a healthy means or an unhealthy means or fucking breaking the fucking law. It's there are this is an issue that has existed since the beginning of humanity.
I think one thing that's tough about it is that because unlike, let's say, coffee, I can talk to you about how many coffees I have a day or how many coffee I drink. There's a bit of shame involved with watching adult content.
Yeah, but that's just because that's the social norm.
Yeah, but like
it's a social construct, Connor.
I know. To expand on that, it's like, okay, like I might not talk to you about how many times I watch porn a week, right? Because I might be like self-conscious about it.
Yeah.
And what if you're jacking off 3 times a day to porn? I'm like, okay, I always say it's a little too much.
Right.
And then, but we don't know that. Like, you might think that's a normal amount. You're like, well, fuck, it's 2 o'clock.
Yeah, I think, again, it's like this concept of it being unhealthy is purely based on the fact that we can't be as open about adult content as well. I mean, maybe nowadays we can more often because, things like OnlyFans and the porn industry is just becoming so much larger and larger that you see it more often in everyday life.
All the time.
Yeah.
On Twitter, fuck me. Pussy and bio, shut the fuck up. I don't know. Stop.
I miss the days when I could scroll on my Twitter and it would just be the feeds and the lewds that I wanted to watch. Now you see a tweet, you see a random tweet, look at the replies, like, come to my OnlyFans, and you just see straight up porn.
Yeah, but I do feel like I see way more just porn on Twitter now and other platforms. I'm like, okay, like I used to think like, oh, nice, when it would pop up occasionally, like a great.
And now it's just a norm.
Dude.
Yeah.
Now I'm just like, okay, this kind of, I don't like it. Can we stop this?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the only big change is just the amount and the ease of access and the exposure we have to adult content. Which, I think obviously with every statement that comes here, anything can be unhealthy if you just consume way too much of it. With most things, it comes in moderation.
Also, it might be considered unhealthy if, for example, you're exposed to it at like a really, really young age.
I think people are definitely watching it way too young now.
Oh, totally.
It's crazy to me that like we had that conversation when we were talking about like when we first jacked off.
Yeah.
We were like, what were we like 13, 14?
Something like that.
I was playing Halo or something.
Yeah.
People are watching porn at like 11 now.
Yeah.
What the fuck? You should not be concerned with such things.
Like fucking 10-year-old go on to Twitch and like, see like some pretty like adult content there. Maybe not porn straight up, but like pretty adult shit for what you should be watching at that age. I think it is unhealthy for someone that young to be overexposed to that kind of a content at such an early age. But like, I don't know, man, if a fucking 22-year-old wants to like go jack off twice a day, then
do you remember the very first time you felt horny or like felt like a chemical reaction, be like, oh, what's that?
Are you asking